It just did. And not only the future of America, you know, if you noticed, if you paid attention, so many other countries were heavily invested in our election, not out of morbid curiosity, but because, let's just be honest, I mean, a lot of the world hates America, and a lot of Americans feel guilty about that. Like, we must be really bad people. But as I've said so many times, you know, when you're on top, there's always going to be hate coming up. Nobody that is not top dog likes the top dog, because nobody, you know, it's just like a human thing. They don't want to be controlled. If you lived in, if you lived in freaking Swahili, you probably wouldn't like America either, because so much of what America does in the world has outcomes in all of those countries. You know, I could sit here and you could sit here and we could list off the endless good things that come from America, but that's not in vogue anymore. We've had too many years of a public education where the educators are not teaching people how to live and things that are useful. We've had them teaching or sprouting heavy propaganda, you know, and just absolutely filling our younger generation with shit that is so easy to disprove. But in order to disprove it, you have to be a free thinker. And communists, they don't like free thinkers. Communism doesn't promote free thinking. Free thinkers are trouble. Oh, it says if I do this, I can see my comments. I never know what I'm doing. Swipe left to close. Let me swipe right again. What the hell's going on? But yeah, you know, free thinking is dangerous in a communist world. So what do you have as an outcome when you have this type of indoctrination and propaganda that we've seen in the educational system? Just as an example, because it's everywhere. It's in the media. But we ended up with generations of people. And just for some examples, you know, you can stop 10 random Democrats, just random, whether they're on college campuses or walking down the street. And if you ask them a question, they will still swear to you that Trump said there are good people on both sides of the Charlottesville thing, because that's what they heard. And if you tell them before they flip you off and walk away when you start to give them evidence, because they don't want evidence, if you tell them, whoa, 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 I could show you absolute proof that that was taken out of context, and that he went on to completely say that, you know, he denounced the right-wing extremists and the white supremacists. I got to watch what I say on TikTok. That's been a strange thing especially for somebody my age who grew up in a different time. It's been very strange to see such a large group of people who not only don't have the evidence, but if you go to present it to them, they run away because they're so locked into this is the danger of a well-planned propaganda machine, like our college education system, our education system in general, our public education. This is why it's so dangerous. It gets so embedded in them, and they surround themselves in an echo chamber of friends that they just bounce off of each other saying the same shit, that if you walked in there and you showed them absolute proof that what they were saying was not the truth, they'd probably stone you. More realistically, they would run away from you. They don't want to hear it because, they're locked into that. They're invested in it. To a guy like me, that is terrifying. And why do I say that? Because I've changed my mind 100 times. I understand what it's like to be wrong. And it sucks to be wrong, but there's such a great opportunity when you're wrong and you find out you're wrong, because then you get to adjust your course, you know? People, you know, I tell somebody, if they ask me, you know, I'd say I was a Republican. That's just to shut them up because I don't want to have a big discussion about it. But do you think I like and support all Republicans? They are some of the biggest, most corrupt, turncoat, backstabbing people that we've had in government. The difference is the Democrats, with all of their corrupt, criminal leadership, will support them right to the freaking nuclear mushroom cloud, where most people that have a brain and are willing to adjust their thoughts will, you know, I support this guy until I find out he is a criminal or a jerk. Oh, but you still support Trump and he's a criminal. Allegations are allegations. He's been, he has 34 counts of, hey, you can charge somebody with 100 counts of anything, but until that guy is convicted and in prison, he's still presumed innocent unless he's Donald Trump in this country. So, it's like suing somebody. You can sue somebody every day. I've been sued realistically 6 times, because nobody in my day could be a cop without getting sued. But just because you're sued doesn't mean that you're wrong. Anybody can bring a lawsuit. Anybody can bring an impeachment against the president. Being impeached just means that a process took place. It doesn't mean anything until it means something. Just like these convictions. But the free criminals that are running the country right now are, a lot of them are Republicans. So if I had to really identify myself, I would say that I am a constitutional conservative, because I think our Constitution was laid out perfectly, and I've given enough of a ramble. I want to greet all you guys that are just coming in, and let's take a look and see what you guys are saying. Let's talk about it. I'm interested in what are your concerns? What are your thoughts? I would advise against throwing on a Trump hat and running around waving a flag. Why are you afraid? Well, look, man, do what you want, but I don't trust the left. I just don't trust them. And let me ramble on just a little bit more. It's not just 4 years. I love what you're saying, KP. KP says, let's go 4 years to clean things up. I think we got more than 4 years if it's done right. And I hope I remember what I was going to say. Why do I say that? We got 4 years of Trump, and then hopefully we got 8 years of Vance. And during those times, their main job should be to make sure we get the right people in line in our government and in my opinion, in law enforcement, federal law enforcement. Look, there was a time in my life where if somebody badmouthed the FBI or all cops are bad, I would have been freaking out because, I used to train with the FBI, just tactical training. I've worked cases with the FBI, had friends that were FBI. I was a federal agent for 12 years with an OIG in DC. And now I don't trust them, and it breaks my heart that I have to say that, but I don't. If the FBI knocked on my door right now, I wouldn't trust them, because I believe that our systems that were so sacred and so important have been just diluted with swamp water, and that includes our military. Our military is not what it used to be, and why is that? That's because the leaders that were put in by the leaders in DC, the people that have been promoted, were all DEI yes people, and it's okay, we'll put tampons in the men's restroom, we'll do all this stuff, and then simultaneously the young soldiers and Marines and airmen and sailors that were coming into the military were coming out of schools that were telling them things like the Constitution and the country was built, is all about slavery, and we're an evil country. And, just because you were born a certain way doesn't mean you got to be that way. So they go in, and what happens is the whole thing changes. When we talk about the army, it's not a thing, it's a group of people. We talk about the politicians, the government's not an entity, it's people. And when the people are fucked up, the whole apparatus becomes fucked up. So it's going to take a long time to unfuck it, pardon my language. But I can't remember what I was going to say, but I do think that I wouldn't put anything beyond this administration that's sitting in there now. Because think about what's happening right now. You have to put your mind in the minds of the other people. And if you're a conservative or a Republican, think about how you feel. I mean, look, right now, and it may be a giggle and it may be fun, but the people on the left are having the very worst day of their life. And why are they having the worst day of their life? Because in their shallow minds, they truly, with all that they are, believe that a fascist just won the election. That's what they've been told, and not being willing or able to research beyond what comes out of the TV, out of the propaganda media. They go to bed at night and wake up in the morning thinking that Trump's a fascist and this is the end of the world. So can you imagine how these people must feel right now? I mean, think back to how we felt when we lost the last election. I think it's a lot worse for these people, because they feel today the way we would feel if Trump had lost, because I would have guaranteed that America was dead if he had lost this election. And I thank God that he didn't lose the election. I thank God. I thank the voters. I thank the African American community who the Trump supporters who had the extra burden of coming out publicly and saying, "Hey, man, they haven't done anything for us. I'm going to research this." There's endless videos on it. I've talked about it before. One of my constant lines when I'm on anybody's video where it's an African American supporting Trump is that nothing scares the left more than a free-thinking African American person, and it's true. They want African American people to do what the fuck they're told when they're told to do it. And so when, we've all seen it, when one comes out and goes, "Hey, you know what? I went to a Trump rally and then I watched the Joe Rogan interview and I got to see how he thinks, how Trump thinks. I changed my mind, and damn it, I'm going to vote for Trump." Families kicking him out, friends dumping him. They went through the same thing that we all went through, that when those of us who refused to take the jab, we were bashed, people lost their jobs, families divided. So it took a lot of guts, and I salute the African Americans and all minorities who stood up for Trump. I also salute all of the LGBTQ Trump supporters. How hard do you think that must be? How difficult must it be to, have blue hair and be a flamboyant person from the LGBTQ society where all your friends are like that, and then you, because you have a freaking brain in your head, start to go, "Wait a minute. It's not all about me. What is best for the country?" And this is the problem with Democrats, in my opinion, so many of them, not Democrats, just lefties, is that, they focus on what a president will do for them. That is the most dangerous thing that you can do. Dictators, real dictators, not fake dictators like they call Trump, but real, Pol Pots, real dictators all over the world. They count on people not doing research, not thinking, and just parroting, and then being so easily pushed into the direction that they need to push them into. So what happened? We have young women being told that it's the end of the world for women because men that vote for Trump and Trump supporters, they want to control your bodies. Hey man, where is the proof of that? I'm not pro-abortion, but I am like Trump. I think it should be left to the states. This is how our country was designed, that the government should not have its hands in everything from slaughtering squirrels and raccoons to, dictating, what you do in your bedroom. They should not be able to do that. And so nobody I know believes that there should never be an abortion under any circumstances. We just don't want abortion being used as a form of birth control. It's not about controlling a woman's body. Most real men no, I'm not talking about, let me rephrase that. A lot of men love women, and that's who we love. And so why would we want to do anything to hurt women? And I shouldn't even have to say that because it's so sophomoric and unnecessary. But the fact of the matter is, these leftists will look at a topic that affects them. If you wanted to get a Democrat's vote, all you got to do is just give them free shit. This is the shallowness of it, and they don't realize the danger to the country and the world, and I'm not exaggerating. It's a huge danger. So if you took a segment of the population, and we all know people like this, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to pay off your student loans, and I'm going to give you a $2,000 check if you vote for me," there is a huge percentage of the population that'll be like, yeah, we'll vote for that person, never given a shit about what that person's policies were in terms of national security, the economy, things that affect everybody. And that is exactly why when countries fall into socialism, followed very closely by communism, the very first people that get done away with are the useful idiots that brought those people into power. And why? Because the people that are now in power realize that those people are so easily manipulated, they can be stirred up and rise up against them. So this is why it's shocking when you find, when you see so many African Americans, not to go in circles, but African Americans that are just never ending, die hard Democratic supporters. And when you talk about, you do realize, who created, who created slavery, who was the ones that opposed slavery. Oh, well, that was then, though. It all switched around. It's a convenient story that white Democrats came up with. Yeah, the party's changed. So actually, and none of that's true. You can research it yourself and find out. But to get somebody of a certain generation to open up a book and actually start reading is almost impossible these days. It's almost impossible. So it's easier to hold a piece of glass and listen to somebody that's paid to tell you a message and then run around thinking that you know shit instead of going, let me go see what the other side has to say. I've heard people talk, hey, I hear it personally. Did you watch the Joe Rogan podcast? Oh, I hate Joe Rogan, man. I can't stand. What does that have to do with anything? If Adolf H was interviewing somebody that has the potential to be the leader of the free world for 3 hours, don't you want to see what the potential leader of the free world has to say? But this is the shallowness of these people, and it's so dangerous. Let me see what you guys are saying here. How many people we got in here? Holy crap, this might be the biggest live I've ever had, and I can't thank you enough. I trust local police, but not. So I want to thank you guys. Everybody that's joined me, I really want to thank you. I don't make money on any of this. I've had huge YouTube channels. A lot of you followed me around through the years. Huge channels back before Obama was elected, and I never monetized a thing. I don't do that. It's not because I'm rich. I just don't. I'm a talker. I like to talk to people, and I like to share things that might help somebody. So I don't ask for money. I don't get money, and so when I look at the views, it doesn't make me think, ooh, I'm going to get something out of it. What my payoff is I'd rather talk to 10 people than 2 people if I have something that is supposedly going to be, spur some thought and some dialogue and maybe light a candle of thought somewhere. So thank you guys very much. And now somebody just said, field guy. I trust local police, but not federal. Look, I was, those that don't know, I'm a retired Los Angeles police officer from the 80s and 90s. And after that, I did 12 years in DC as a federal agent. And I was a supervisory special agent doing criminal investigations. But then I quickly took over the firearms and tactics unit of that agency because that's kind of my forte is firearms training. I had my own firearms instruction business after I left. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not. I'm not trying to say that I'm an impressive guy. I'm just giving you some background. So I do have friends that are young cops in various departments, and they give me the, I've gone on ride-alongs. I see what's happening. I don't want to turn this into a pro-cop thing or me defending police. I will say that what I've noticed with law enforcement today is the same thing I noticed if you saw my older video when I went to my paratrooper reunion back at Fort Bragg, not Liberty, Bragg. And we met with the new people in my old battalion, and they were great people and very smart and competent in terms of technology, but they weren't the same type of paratroopers that I was with. And things do change, so I get that. And maybe some of it's for the better, but the police department today, they're not like the police departments when I was a cop. Oh, were they all good back then? No, we had the Rampart scandal. We had all kinds of scandals. But a lot of those scandals happened after a federal consent decree that required police departments to drop the standards to bring in a certain demographic of people. And then you started taking people with prior gang experience and people with arrests. And we all looked at each other and said, well, shit, you can put a badge on a gang member and all you have is a gang member with a badge. It's not a cop. And who was surprised when cops started robbing banks and ripping off dope and everything else? None of us were surprised. So you're always going to have, in any group of people, there's that one bad apple. Cops, unfortunately, have that type of job where, if a 7-Eleven worker turned into a serial killer, nobody would avoid 7-Elevens thinking that all 7-Eleven workers were serial killers. But one cop out of the entire country, where you got cops stopping people all over in alleys all over the country 24 hours a day, one cop does something and the rest have to pay for it. I don't want to turn it into a pro-cop thing, but I will say this. The police departments today have been affected by this whole woke thing, where in my day, 1984, when I joined the LAPD, when you were a veteran, you had a little bit of a preference when you applied for the Los Angeles Police Department and most police departments. There were all kinds of things you had to do. There were things, traditions that went back way before I was born. Cops couldn't have a mustache, they couldn't wear boots, they couldn't wear short sleeves until they were off probation. And of course, as things changed in this country, it trickled into the police department, and now that was considered hazing and mean. And now you got cops all over the country with full beards and tattoos. I didn't get tattoos on my arms until I retired from LAPD because we didn't have tattoos on our arms back then. We made sure, when I was in the Army getting tattoos, I knew I was going to be a cop, so I made sure they would be above my short sleeves. Now you can pretty much do whatever you want. So my point is, the people joining the police department, by and large, and I can only speak for out there, out west, were guys that wanted to be that force between good and evil. Now, I'm not talking about that 1/10 of 100th of a percent of guys that had a power trip or were bullied at school and they wanted to, those guys used to get filtered out, and cops, contrary to liberal belief, Internal Affairs was arresting cops all the time. Not all the time, but when they committed crimes, they ended up going to jail. It wasn't like cops were just running free and being able to do what they wanted. But back then, they gave us a preference, and people joined the police department because they were willing to die to be that force between good and evil. And let's face it, they liked the kineticness, the kinetic energy, the quasi-military, which used to be a term thrown around in law enforcement. It was very military structured. Transitioning from the Army to the police department was easy. You ran PT, you had haircuts, you had uniforms, you had inspections, you had, there was a rank structure, and you had the adrenaline rush of stopping Mr. and Mrs. Good Citizen, and then 10 minutes later being in a gunfight, never knowing when that was going to happen. That was the reason we were there. Nowadays, you have people that join the police department because they want the Delta Dental program, or they're paying off student loans. They're not planning on making it a career. They're just passing through. Why does that bother me? Go check out the videos, the endless videos of cops getting blown away because their mindset's not the same. It's not the same as it was. When you put a badge on your chest and you go out to hunt down and find real threats to society, there's a good chance that you're not going to come home. So now, what are they doing now? They're not, any smart cop's not doing much of anything. You sit there, you wait for your call, you take your time getting there, and you hope everybody's gone by the time you get there, because you're not allowed to pursue anybody. You're not allowed to chase anybody on foot. You can't stop and frisk. You don't want to be a guy that looks like me and have something get physical, and then it ends up on the news, because no matter what the hell the problem is, you're going to be called a racist and you're going to end up in trouble and lose everything. And you got all these people on the left that are talking about qualified immunity. It's like when they hear a word, it becomes their thing. We got to get rid of qualified immunity. We have to stop qualified immunity. Cops can just go out and do whatever they want and nothing happens to them, which is absolute bullshit. The people talking about doing away with qualified immunity have no idea what qualified immunity really is and why it exists, and why, if you did away with it today, nobody with 2 brain cells would ever wear a badge again. And the simplest way to explain it to people is, if you worked for Acme Widget Factory and you were loading boxes on a shelf and you stepped back and knocked an old lady down accidentally and she broke her hip, and she could sue you, and you would lose your home and lose everything, and the Acme Widget Company wouldn't have to pay for it. They wouldn't represent you. Who would ever work at Acme Widget Factory if that was the case? All qualified immunity does is, if you're not breaking the law, which is important. Now, if you're some rogue cop that comes to work and does some crazy ass shit, the departments don't have to represent you, and they don't have to cover the losses in a civil suit. But cops get sued all the time. Every year you're getting sued, or you're not working hard enough. And because people see deep pockets, it's like, I'm going to get a lot of money from the city. Well, no cop should lose his house. No, not only cops, but no employee anywhere should go to work and then come home realizing they've lost their income, their house, their livelihood, because they made a honest mistake at work. And when you're dealing with guns, sometimes honest mistakes hurt people, and sometimes, sadly, people end up losing their life. That's the reality of law enforcement. So, and let me see this, but they do not need to have any protection to do their job. Lawrence, I'm not sure I understand. Are we talking about cops don't need protection to do their job? But if you could just give me because I'm not sure what you mean by that. Mike, give me some money. Yeah, give me some money, man. Nancy, hey, what's going on? How you doing? So yeah, I'm going off on a ramble. That's what I do. I bounce all over the place. I probably have ADD. Who knows? I feel like I do, and that's not a big deal. So you have no morals, so don't judge. Let me see. You have no morals. Okay, so well, I'm not going to say your username. I'll get in trouble. But what makes you say? I mean, because you throw that out there, please. I don't mind. I can take whatever you throw at me, but at least have the guts to expand on that. What does that mean? I have no morals. And okay, here we go. I don't have any business talking about abortion. And let me just say this to you, Colleen Davison 5. Why would you think that I, as a human being and as an American citizen, have no business talking about abortion? Let's just talk about that for a second. So, the baby grows inside of the woman's body, which, by the way, I thought that the left, there was a lot of ambiguity in terms of how many, are we men, are we women? What if we don't identify as one or the other and we identify as a chair? But let's pretend that there's two sexes and the woman has a baby in her. You're telling me that she has all the right in the world to abort the baby. I, as the father, have nothing to say about it. But conversely, if she has the baby, if I don't want to support the baby, I'll lose my money and I'll end up in jail. So it's a very one-sided thing, only because nature put the final product into the woman's body. And let's take all of that aside. Why would I not have any business talking about anything that is a public concern? It's a concern all over the country, if not the world. So you only think people should talk about things let's talk about things that you mention every day that you can't relate to. If you have an opinion on men and you don't stand up to piss, then you don't have any business talking about men ever, according to your logic. So that's just nonsense. Why do good cops cover for bad cops? If a cop covers for a bad cop, that's not a good cop, Mike. So nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop. And having testified against a cop back in the 90s, which was super unpopular then and caused a huge, I should tell the story, but I just don't want to get into it. I've told it before. It divided an entire narcotics division from patrol, and it was a big thing. And that doesn't make me a hero. There's right and wrong. Look, why would any cop why would anyone cover for any criminal? If you have a guy that's a criminal and he's wearing a police uniform, he's not a cop, he's a criminal, and he just happens to be wearing a uniform. But, I think people get jaded, and if the media, if all they show about police work is when cops do shitty things or do things that could be perceived as shitty, then the simple-minded people are going to go, holy crap, cops are just out there killing people. Well, if that was true, you'd be tripping over bodies. The media is not going to show you that during the last 24 hours, there's been countless cops helping homeless people in alleys all across America. You don't hear that, and you might giggle and think, oh, yeah, right. That's because they don't show it because it doesn't fit their agenda. I can speak from experience. I can't even tell you how many times my partner and he went on to be a commander in LAPD. He stayed on a lot longer than I did. But way back in the 90s, we set up a thing ourselves where we got all of our friends and family, and it grew, and it ended up becoming a news event because of some other ego dude that wanted to become part of it. But we were collecting clothes and food and everything else for the homeless, and we'd pull up in the black and white, open the trunk, people would line up. We were doing it for weeks before some commander found out about it and then wanted to make it a big news event to give publicity to the department. But that's not an anomaly. Cops are doing things like that all the time, but that's not fun. That's not exciting. Who wants to see a cop come out of his pocket and pay somebody's rent because they can't afford it? And during the call, that came out that they're, and the cops look at each other and go, let's pool our money and pay this guy's rent, or let's fill up their freezer. Let's go shopping. You don't see that because it doesn't fit the narrative. So, a lot of people are just easily played, and I find that sad. And that's actually part of what is led to the division in terms of the original subject, which is the election. Let's see what else we got. Okay, Rita, take care. Let's see. What about, let's see. What about it when it's not a mistake? Yeah, well, there's a system in place for that. I tell people all the time, if you're a citizen and you're driving down the street and a cop stops you and you didn't do nothing wrong at all, and the cop is just a freaking nutcase or a racist, whatever, anything's possible. The time for the trial is not at the side of the road, because at the least, the cop's going to screw you over, because obviously if he stopped you and you didn't break any laws, there's a problem with this cop. So at the very least, you're going to end up with more problems. And at the very worst, it could escalate into somebody getting hurt or worse. So the process is, and nowadays you've got cell phones, so now that you film everything, the cop's wearing a body camera 99% of the time. You answer questions, you do whatever it takes so that you don't get hurt and things don't escalate. And then once that situation is over, you go right to the department and you file a complaint. And if you think they're covering for them, there's recourse. That's how a society works. Oh, the department, they're just blowing me off. Well, then you take it higher and you go to you take it to the beyond the local level, to the prosecutor's office. Then you hire an attorney and you bring him to civil court. If it's crime, you take him to criminal court. But dealing with it on the side of the road or at the scene of the stop, it doesn't end well. It never does. Because if the cop is a good cop, he's going to explain to you, and you got to be open-minded, that, hey, there was this old dude wearing glasses with a goatee and a black shirt that was crawled out of a window of somebody's house and was running through the neighborhood. You happen to be walking by here. That's me. So if they stop me, at first I'm going to be like, what the fuck? I'm walking through the neighborhood. Why am I getting jacked? If it turns out that that's a legit story, then I understand, because I want cops to go after people that crawl out of other people's windows in the middle of the night and run away. Maybe that's just a me thing. What else? Why are men sleeping with women if they don't want kids? But that's such a general statement. How many men are we talking about? I have 7 kids, so I don't get it. I think that's actually an easy question to answer. There's a big difference between guys wanting to have sex and guys that want to have families. So, humans are I can't even say the word, fallible. There's good ones, there's bad ones, there's ones that just do the wrong thing. Anyways, let me see what else is going on here. Hey guys, people that are just joining, I appreciate it. We're just talking, or I'm just talking. I'm trying to answer some questions. And the original thing was about the election. It kind of migrated into law enforcement because that was my forte years ago. But I can talk about anything, man. I'll probably give it, what time is it? I'll probably give it another 10 minutes at the most. And I got to take my dogs out and play Frisbee with them, because they get kind of crazy if I don't do that often. Let's see, what else? What are you guys saying here? Let's see, encourage your viewer. Oh, no, that's not from you guys. You guys have any specific questions for me, shoot them. And like I said, if you're a Democrat, that's more than welcome. I don't require people agree with me. I just ask that I listen to your question and you listen to my response, and hopefully you don't have your answer locked in. None of us grow unless we listen and are willing to actually consider it, and that includes myself too. Oh, thanks, Nancy. Wow, yeah, no, it's already, I think, at a record right now for me. Who would have thought? But let me ask you guys some questions. So I'll read your comments here. What are your predictions in terms of how you think things are going to go between now and President Trump being sworn in? Is it going to be peaceful, or do you anticipate some kind of chaos or something in between? Let me hear what your thoughts are. And also, if you don't mind, I would love it if you'd let me know where you're watching from. That would be great. Just type in your state or country. That'd be awesome. Just curious. Get out of here. It's a fruit fly in here. Be careful what you wish for, man. You ain't kidding. You are not kidding. People that are just joining, I welcome you guys to the live stream. We got about 10 minutes left. And we're talking about any and everything, election related, police work, the fruit fly that, oh, I got it. I got the fruit fly. Don't ever mess with me when I'm doing a live stream. What are the odds of me getting? I'm like a kung fu expert. Canada, yeah, Canada. I've got lots of friends. You're one of them, Nancy, in Canada. And Canada, listen, America is not the only country in turmoil right now. But what's interesting, and this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the live stream about the importance of the American elections. If you've noticed the decline of civilization in terms of everything that was normal, seemingly normal, is now abnormal, or everything that was abnormal is normal, and everything turning upside down. It spread around the world, but it started in America. When America started to get really woke, so did Europe. They started to get woke, and it just spreads like that. And that's why it's so important to have good, solid leadership here in America. Fortunately, Americans are ready, willing, and able, but not until they see the whites of their eyes. Yeah, it takes a long, yeah, and it's dangerous because I don't think we've ever been closer than we were yesterday to really saying goodbye to the American way of life. And is America perfect? Absolutely not. Look, I've been a lot of places in the world. I haven't been to Asia, but I've been to Europe, many countries in Europe. I've been to Egypt. I've been to Israel. I've been around the world. And America has its problems, like all systems have their problems. But no matter how many people hate us, most of them understand that when America goes, that's it. If America collapses into communism or into socialism or into some other ism, there is no more light in darkness. Why is it that people want to come here and you're not seeing people in mass scratching and clawing their way out of America? The same people that talk about how much they hate America wouldn't live anywhere else. Well, no, because I'm going to go to this country. Yeah, there's exceptions, but there's no massive outflow of people dumping America. The truckers convoy in Canada really woke people up, and that was a huge thing. And Canada has its challenges, its huge challenges with Trudeau, who is doing to Canada what our previous administration has done to us. Exactly, yeah, and I don't know, Mike, if you were here when I talked about that. I'll repeat it for the people that weren't here. Mike says MAGA are not Republicans, and that's an absolute fact. Somebody, if they yelled across the street, "Hey, Democrat or Republican?" I'd say Republican because I don't want to stop and talk. I'm busy. But if we had a conversation, I would say I can't stand almost most of Republican leadership. I can't stand. So I call myself a conservative, a constitutional conservative. I believe in the Constitution, and most MAGA people believe in the Constitution, and I believe in less government control. These are actually things that the Democrats, when I was a kid, used to believe in. It's amazing that the Democrats in charge are such warmongers when, they were the ones that were out in the streets protesting Vietnam when I was growing up. But I understand, I'm old enough to understand why, because it's always about money, and it's about this whole military-industrial complex. I'm not going to answer the phone. The military-industrial complex, the people that lobby and pay, and there's cuts that go to these people. Let me just ask you to consider this. Go look up and see how much a congressperson makes or a president makes. Look at their past, at what they had, like let's just say Obama. What was Obama's net worth when he became president? Well, when they leave the office, they are multi-gazillionaires. How did that happen on a presidential salary without some kind of corruption? I mean, it's all right in your face. I mean, you don't make a government salary as a congressperson and then every one of them comes out multi-millionaires, without some kind of crap going on. Trump said he wants to suspend the Constitution. So you want my thoughts on that? Okay, I didn't hear that, and I will never sidestep a question. I'm being honest with you. I didn't hear it, and I would have to know more context. Did he literally just say, when I'm president, I'm going to suspend the Constitution? Or was there something in front or behind that? Did he say that if this happens, I'll suspend the Constitution? I don't know. I would hope that nobody would suspend the Constitution. The Constitution is sacred. I've sworn an oath to protect and defend it multiple times. And that would be very concerning. So I will look that up and find out. And I hope you'll look it up too. I hope you'll look up and not, you got to remember, I know people don't like to believe it, but Google has a algorithm that pushes a certain agenda. So when you look up things on Google, sometimes you got to go way the hell down. I would go to DuckDuckGo or whatever, and I would look into it. And I promise you I will look into it because that would be concerning. Insider training, and he did say that. He said plainly he will day one. He will suspend the Constitution on day one. Can somebody look that up? I gotta believe I would know. I'm not calling you a liar, but I gotta believe I would have known about that. I watch everything the guy says, and if Trump was going to suspend the Constitution, I wouldn't be supporting Trump. Unless there was some crazy weird reason for it that I can't even conceive. So is there anybody else that has heard that? We got how many people in here? We got, 8,000 plus people in the room here. Did Trump say he was going to suspend the Constitution? And I'm not trying to single you out. You might have heard some bad information. He wants to suspend parts of the Constitution so he could win again. You mean like in the future or win this election? I don't get it. He'd be too old to win again. This is going to be the last time you see Trump in office. And I will look it up. I'm not going to look it up right now because I'm doing a live. I mean, I'm hoping you're older than 10 years old and you can kind of figure that out. I don't mean to be rude, but you got a little bit of a tude. You don't know the monster you voted for. So you know everything about the monster you were voting for? Did it bother you that she couldn't complete a sentence? Did that bother you? Did it bother you that she stood for absolutely nothing? Did it bother you that she supported everything that Biden did and then stabbed him in the back so that she can, did any of it? But you can say it's a lie, but yet you won't look it up. You don't want to hear the opposing message. So you've got your mind made up, which means you're not somebody that you can have a discussion with because you're incapable. I'm talking to this sloth clown or sloth cloven, whatever his name is. Yeah. So, if you got your mind made up, you got your mind made up. Democrats are the only one crying. Wait a minute. Now you're talking shit. Get over it. Democrats are the only ones crying hate and racism. Not sure who that's for, but yeah. I mean, that I actually agree with that. So hopefully you weren't talking to me. I think Mike Laugh 237. He said it plainly. I don't think so. How is massive firing, deportation, and tariffs going to put money in my pocket? Okay, well, first of all, that goes back to something, it's a good question, and it's something I talked about at the beginning of the stream. Don't be offended when I say this. I'm just giving you my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. This is just the dude whose live you're on talking. It's not always about you and your pocket. Now, I can probably come up with reasons why it'll eventually put money in your pocket. I can also talk about how the tariffs, and I can talk about the economy under the 4 years that we had of Trump and what the prices were then versus what they are today. But I also would invite you to consider that what good is money in your pocket if your country is completely overrun by people that other countries have dumped into your open border after opening prisons, and that's all you can look into that. That's not just made up crap. So you have to first have a safe country. You have to have a reliable, safe country with a good law enforcement apparatus, and people have to feel safe, and then your economy will grow. Who's going to build a factory and create jobs in the bad parts of Chicago? Okay, but if it was a safe area, then there'd be companies opening up instead of going away. Why are all the companies leaving? Why are all the businesses leaving Washington State? It's not safe for them. So if you want money in your pocket, you have to have the environment that is conducive to getting money in your pocket. Congress on both sides. Yeah, I absolutely, Mike. I agree with that. Yeah, and that's why I said, I am not some dude that loves all Republicans and all people that represent the right. A lot of them are scum, just absolute scum. Absolutely agree with you. How do I feel about Trump trashing veterans? So that's another thing that you saw in your echo chamber. No offense, that's not true. He did not. Trump loves veterans, and this is what happens when you hear something from The View and you hear it on CNN and all your friends watch The View and CNN. So you bounce it off each other and you just keep repeating the same thing, but you don't go look into it. Just show me the proof of where he was trashing veterans. And, you know, like the last guy will say, well, why don't you just stop the live and look it up? Because I've already looked it up. Being a veteran, I looked into that the first time I heard that allegation. It's not true. I won't talk about it. I'm talking about it right now. Are you over 10 years old is what I'm wondering. You literally asked a question, I'm giving you my opinion, and he writes, but you won't talk about any of that. This is the leftist mindset, and I hope you're not of voting age. He said he will be a dictator. Okay, yeah, he didn't say that, and I would love for you to prove that. Never been said. Yeah, he said that. Okay, this is the magic of the liberal twist. Somebody here says he said that he liked veterans that weren't captured. Totally out of context, and what that sentence was is no different than you probably believing that he said there were good and bad people on both sides of the Charlottesville thing. That was taken out of context. Because the media that you watch cut off the rest of the speech. Go look it up. It's all available for you. It was covered on the Joe Rogan podcast with Trump, but you don't want to watch that because you don't like Joe Rogan, you don't like Trump. But you can take a piece of anything that any of us say, and you can form that into something that's not true. So, you know, you got to be careful about that because it works both ways, and it's a real sign of ignorance when somebody tells you, no, the proof is right over here that he didn't say that, and that's not what he meant. And if you say, no, I'm not going to go look at that because I'm comfortable believing that's what he said. So he didn't say that. Yeah, that's like asinine. He was sued for racism. Did he lose the lawsuit, Patricia? Yeah, he wasn't. You know, like I said earlier, anybody can sue anybody. A lawsuit doesn't mean you're guilty of anything. You know, you could sue the next door neighbor for something, and now you got to prove it. And if Trump is a racism, or if Trump is a racist, why does Jesse Jackson support him? Why do all of the black leadership, long before he ever was in politics, why did they love him? Why did Oprah say he was like such a great friend? Why did they all want to be have him at their weddings? Why is he the one that brought the African Americans to Wall Street when nobody else would allow that to happen? He's such a racist. Yeah. He lost. So no, he didn't. There's no lawsuit that he lost because of being a racist. This is misinformation, and it's sad because I can see by your profile picture, you're old enough to look this stuff up, but you're just repeating crap. No, well, you know what, Linda? Sadly, this is what we're up against. And this is why the left is the way they are. This is why they're having the worst day of their life right now. Because it's almost not their fault. I do think it's their fault because they refuse to critically think. But it's almost not their fault because they don't, and I'm not saying people are stupid. Ignorance and stupidity is different. But a lot of people are too ignorant to know that they're ignorant. You know, it's like, you can argue with a rock all day long, but it's never going to accept the fact that it's a rock. And you can see by some of these comments here, you can tell a person, here's what you've been told, here's the truth, but it's going to require you to come over here and look at it. And they absolutely will do everything to avoid going over there because it's a comfort zone thing. I bashed Trump for years. How can I possibly go home and go, oh my God, I was wrong about Trump? A lot of brave people did, and that's why in one of my last videos, I was giving praise and thanks to the African Americans who had the guts and the brains to realize that they were being played and to take that uncomfortable step outside of the comfort zone and do what they felt was right, no matter what it was. Whether they were voting for Kamala or Trump, they should never be pushed into anything, and neither should you, and neither should I. But yeah, politics on TikTok's never good. Yeah, but it's almost like TikTok's become like a political thing. It's really crazy. So guys, let me just switch this for a second. Let's see. I want to, where are we at? I want to thank you guys. I'm going to call it quits because I went 10 minutes over. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. And listen, for you Democrats and left-leaning people, I don't hate you. I don't hate you. And guess what? I don't know of a real. I have all of my friends are Trump supporters because that's how society is. We stick around with our own usually, but I don't know of anybody that hates the LGBTQ society. I don't know anybody that has an issue with a woman's body. You know, you guys have been lied to, man. And I know it sucks to be told that because then you feel kind of dumb for having fallen for it, but you were lied to. I'm not going to justify it by saying I have friends. Look, I've grown up being called a racist because I'm a tall pink guy that looks like a racist. Never have dated a white woman in my entire 62 years. My first wife was Peruvian. My kids are three of them are half Spanish. And I'm married to a Vietnamese lady now. And I've got other kids that are, her two kids are Vietnamese. And then we adopted two kids. I'm not a racist. Well, just because you marry somebody from a different race doesn't mean you're not a. Yeah, it does. The definition, they've changed the definition of things. If you're a racist, you think your race is superior, and you wouldn't be caught dead sleeping with or living with somebody from another race. But you know, the dangerous thing about that is when everybody's a racist, nobody's a racist, and when everybody's a fascist, nobody's a fascist, and it's very scary. To when you realize that such a large part of the population, I'm talking about the left, here the numbers show that the majority of Americans think one way, different than them, and they think those people are all screwed up. Everybody that voted for Trump is not screwed up. I'm sure there's some crazy Trump supporters and some, there's always going to be crazy people on both sides. But it should at least have you thinking. I would challenge every Democrat, every liberal, every Trump hater. I will leave you with it. I challenge you to listen to two things. Listen to the Joe Rogan interview with Trump, not because of Joe Rogan, but because he's talking to the guy that's now controlling the country that you hate. And then listen to the J.D. Vance interview the following day or two with Rogan. I thought Vance was a terrible pick, and I had my preconceived feelings about him, and I listened to him, and I changed my mind. If you're not willing to change your mind given new information, you're just a person that sucks air, eats and shits, and just does what you're told to do. Think for yourselves, and let's hope for the best. I pray for all of us. You know, I really do. And I hope that you do too. Don't walk around bitter today because your person didn't win the election. You know, there's a system in America to change things. Become part of the solution. Don't sit around and complain about shit. Get involved in local politics. Go become your whatever, the freaking, what do they call it when the the homeowners association. Jump into that. Then jump into the Department of Education. Volunteer. Become this, that, the other. Become part of the system and make the changes you want. If you hate cops and you're young, then go be a cop and show us how it's done. If you don't hate from your couch and just sit around hating because you're not doing anything. Anyways, peace. You guys stay safe, and hate from your couch and just sit around hating because you're not doing anything. Anyways, peace. You guys stay safe, and hate from your couch and just sit around hating because you're not doing anything. Anyways, peace. You guys stay safe, and hate from your couch and just sit around hating because you're not doing anything. Anyways, peace. You guys stay safe, and